Yes, people, welcome back to IDBM Mixing. I'm Tyrone Edwards, also known as IDBM. I'm a mix engineer from the UK. Today I'm going to be trying something new. I'm going to be trying to get some momentum with an idea that I've got. It's called What Would I Do Today? And the concept is to take old mixes that I've already done, that have been released, and I'm going to strip it all the way back and mix it as if to say I only received the files today, and then compare it to the original mix that I did and just see what the similarities are, what the differences are, and to be fair, which one's better. Today's version may be great, the original version may be the best version. This track is by a really close friend of mine, Anyone the Wanderer from Wolverhampton, West Midlands, my hometown. This song is called New Whip Who This. It was co-produced by Paul Singh, who's also from the West Midlands, who's also another friend of mine. Yeah, and we just had fun with this one. So like I said, I've literally stripped it right back. I've done all the gain staging, all the editing, but I'm literally going to go from faders down right the way through to the end and just see again, like I say, what differences I can make, if I can do anything better in reflection now. Yeah, and just see where it goes. So let's jump straight in. So I think what I'll do is I will play the unmastered original mix for you guys. I won't play the whole thing, but I'll just play through it just so you get a gist and a reminder of where we are, and then we'll jump straight into actually mixing the thing. Let's go.
Coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick the music, new whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick the music. Nobody's an island, I'm reminded when I drive through my ends. Set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibrance. Tell me I don't know the way and I tell them cool, alright then. Feels like we've been down this road before, but rest assured I got my ways. Too determined, they can't deter me, not on my journey, get off my case. More mature, less insecure, learning to cure my toxic traits. Whether there's more or less on my plate, of a quiet taste, my time is sacred. Man, I'm a big money man in the making. Can't complain, I can't be complacent, their estimation must be mistaken. Ups them off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent. We embrace and celebrate all these wins we generate. They try but can't emulate. Vibes don't lie, they resonate. I move with excellence, smoother entrance. Choose direction and accelerate.
Right, so yeah, rough idea of the song. Let's jump straight in. I always like to start with the drums. I'll move from the drums to the bass into the vocals, and then we'll see how things fare. So let me just jump to a part where there's a lot going on. I think I may just jump to the hook first. 1 second. I will jump to the second hook. Yeah, just to get some things going. I'll put that on loop. And let's get things in. Here's my kick. Basses. Just a rough balance. Give myself some volume in my headphones. Random loop point, but I'll sort that out in a bit. Actually, I think I will loop the next section so we have some snare. Once I bring that in. Yeah. Right, so if I loop from here. What I always do is I'll bring in my kick, snare and bass, and then I'll bring my vocals in and take the snare down just so I can get a balance of things. I like to bring my snare and hi-hats in after I've kind of got a balance of where the vocal's gonna sit roughly. Because I originally won't know whether frequencies in the snare are going to be conflicting with frequencies in the vocal, same with the hi-hats. So I just kind of bring the snare in as a reference point and then bring my vocal in, and then I'll just take the snare out and rebalance the snare later on once I've got a few more things going, but you'll see that. So if we go, let's go here. Let's bring this hook vocal in.
New whip, who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who with? You pick the music. Who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who with? You pick the music. New whip, who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who with? You pick the music.
I'm just gonna flip the polarity of the bass. I'm pretty certain. 1 second.
Who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who with? You pick the music.
Yeah, I prefer that.
New whip, who this?
Okay. We've got the hook lead in. There's a little section here which is like the pre. I'm working backwards. So I'm just gonna bring this section in because the drums do something different.
Enough cash to fill the tank, so we're about to do some cruising. Aux lead or the Bluetooth, we can tune it. Map it out, set a new route. I put the windows down. Who this coming through? Movements.
There are some vocal jumps in that, which I can sort that out later on with compression and automation and all of the fun stuff. But for now, I'm just trying to get a decent level. And then I will jump into the main lead instrument and then get a balance between my vocal and that instrument, and then see where that sits with the bass and the kick drum. And then that's where momentum starts happening. This stage is quite slow, but we'll get there.
I might need guidance. Willing to go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibrance. Tell me I don't know the way and I tell them cool, alright then. Feels like we've been down this road before, but rest assured I got my ways. Too determined, they can't deter me, not on my journey, get off my case. More mature, less insecure, learning to cure my toxic traits. Whether there's more or less on my plate, I've acquired taste, my time is sacred. Man, I'm a big money man in the making. Can't complain, I can't be complacent. Their estimation must be mistaken. Ups and off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent. We embrace and celebrate all these wins we generate. They try but can't emulate.
Right, I know that we have some lower bass stuff, so let me bring the lower bass stuff in. There's a duplicate, and I know why there's a duplicate, but for now I'm just going to mute that, leave the volume down, and work with the original bass that was sent, which was a sub bass. I know that I ended up doing some harmonics, some saturation to create some harmonics, which is why I duplicated the track, but we'll get into that in a bit. Let's bring the lower stuff in.
New whip, who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who with?
So we've got a nice sub.
Through movements, where to? Who with? You pick the music. Nobody's an island, I'm reminded when I drive through my ends. Set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibrance. Tell me I don't know the way and I tell them cool, alright then. Feels like we've been down this road before, but rest assured I got my ways. Too determined, they can't deter me, not on my journey, get off my case. More mature, less insecure, learning to cure my toxic traits. Whether there's more or less on my plate, I've acquired taste, my time is sacred. Man, I'm a big money man in the making. Can't complain, I can't be complaining.
So what I'm listening for here is just what starts to clash, what starts to overlap, what starts to get in the way. At the moment, the lower register of his voice is kind of sitting in the upper register of the actual played bass. So we'll dig into that once we get to the EQ stage. But at the minute, I'm taking mental notes, and I'm just going to continue bringing in instruments. Now I'm about to bring in what I consider there's two lead main instruments here. There's like a key element and there's a guitar element. So we're going to bring those in. And then there's a flute that has kind of like the iconic motif to the song, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Pick the music. Nobody's a...
So this is the main bulk of the song.
New whip, who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who with? You pick the music. New whip, who
it's very dark.
Coming through. movements, where to, who with, you pick the music. Nobody's an
So I'll bring my snare back in
when I
now.
drive through my ends. Set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibrance. Tell me I don't know the way and I tell them cool, alright then. Feels like we've been down this road before, but rest assured I got my ways. Too determined, they can't deter me, not on my journey, get off my case. More mature, less insecure, learning to cure my toxic traits. Whether there's more or less on my plate of acquired taste, my time is sacred. Man, I'm a big money man in the making. Can't complain, I can't be complacent. Their estimation must be mistaken.
Then we've got the next main element, which when the keys sample drops out, we've got like a guitar part that comes in. So let's get into that.
Can't complain, I can't be complacent. Their estimation must be mistaken. Ups them off on a tangent, working an angle, not in the equation.
So if I mute the vocals quickly. Get a balance between the two.
Coming through movements.
Right, I want to take the kick out and just listen to the instruments, the two lead instruments and the bass. There's a lot of mud there, so this is one thing that I know that I'll dive into to help create space for the actual vocal itself. In fact, let's just jump straight into that now.
This coming through movements.
I still haven't sorted out my Pro Q from the last video, but yeah, I'm constantly mixing, constantly working, so it's a bit long-winded. What I ended up doing in the end was just all the plugins that I didn't actually install properly. I'm using Blue Cats. It's simple, it's easy, and it just saves me a lot of time and headache. But anyway, let's jump into what we were doing here. So I can hear that there's a lot of mid-range and low mid build-up. So let's just dive straight into that and just see what we can see, hear what we can hear, and see what differences we can make. For me, even without hearing the vocal, I know this range is just a lot. And a trick that I like to do, find a frequency you don't like, and rather than having it in isolated and boosting it and being like, yeah, this sounds horrible, play in context with whatever it is that you're trying to unmask. So right now, my concern is having things move out of the way of the lead vocal. So if I play the lead vocal with this instrument playing and I boost the frequency that I'm concerned about, I will see how much damage it's doing, because then obviously if I do the reverse of that and cut that frequency, I will then get a better feeling of, is this doing what I want it to do?
Who this coming through movements, where to, who with, you pick the music, new whip. Who this coming through movements, where.
So to me, with the vocal, that just sounds horrible. So I'm going to slowly bring it back and we will see whether the clarity that I want from the instrument and the vocal playing at the same time either gets more or isn't affected in at all.
Who this coming through movements, where to, who with, you pick the music, new whip. Who this coming through movements, where to, who with, you pick the music. Who this coming through movements, where to, who with, you pick the music, new whip. Who this coming through movements, where to, who with, you pick the music.
So to me, that's quite a big difference. I'm going to try a mid-side trick and do this exact same cut, but I'm going to do it in the mids and see whether that opens the piano sound up around the vocal or whether the frequency that I don't like is also in the sides too, and I just want to get rid of it in stereo. So mids and sides, normal stereo cut, and see what the difference is there. So I'm gonna play it in stereo
movements, where to, who with,
and flip it to mids now.
New whip. who this coming through? Movements, where to, who with, you pick the music.
So I think I am going to keep it in mids, the mid mode, but I'm going to widen the band a bit and take out a little bit more. Because now what I can do...
Who this coming through? Movements, where to, who with, you pick the music. No.
What I can do now is I can take some of the lower frequency of this. I'm going to mute the vocal for the time being. I want a bit of that in the sides. And then I'm also going to take out some of the hardness, not necessarily harshness, but hardness of the keys in this area, but I'm going to do it in stereo, not in mid-side mode. Actually, let me try it in... Nope, I like it in mid-side mode. All I'm trying to do is just create a little bit of space for the vocal. So if you put the vocal back in...
Who this coming through? Movements, where to, who with, you pick the music. No whip, who this
just sounds quite boxy.
Through? Movements, where to, who with, you pick the music.
That's fine to me as it stands so far. So then we'll add the guitars in as well.
Who this coming through? Movements, where to, who with, you pick the music. No whip, who this coming through? Movements, where to, who with, you pick.
Now, what I notice about these guitars now, which I can't remember whether I noticed before in the original mix, but although there's some stereo stuff going on, they're still quite mono and up the middle, which is also masking a lot of things. So I'm going to take that. Let me just bypass this EQ for the time being. It's not necessary. I'm going to take the EQ that I did on the piano, bring it over, and I'm going to tweak the bands because, let me do that. I feel like some of the bands are going to be similar, but what I don't want to do is take out too much information in the mids and then there's just a giant hole in the mids. I'd rather have something subtle where it just feels like these instruments wrap around where the vocal sits and the vocal is in its own space with its own identity. So let me see whether, I'm going to bypass this as well at the moment. I'm going to see whether this frequency needs tweaking, changing, whatever. Let me... So there's a lot there, but it's, to me, it's a bit too wide. Take out some of it from a lower perspective. What I will do is filter out some of this. Don't need it. Maybe 80 is a bit too high. There is something weird. It's the same frequency. Roundabout. I like that. That sounds good to me. A little bit loud.
You pick the music. Set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibrance. Tell me I don't know the way and I tell them cool, alright then. Feels like we've been down this road before, but rest assured I got my ways. Too determined, they can't deter me, not on my journey, get off my case. More mature, less insecure, learning to cure my toxic traits. Whether there's more or less on my plate of acquired taste, my time is sacred. Man, I'm a big money man in the making. Can't complain, I can't be complacent. Their estimation must be mistaken. Ups and off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent. We embrace and celebrate all these wins we generate. They try but can't emulate. Vibes don't lie, they resonate.
I'm going to do some DSing. I'm just going to set it up here, but I'm actually going to do it in Audio Suite. Let's just grab this first.
Nobody is an island, I'm reminded when I drive through my ends. Set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibrance. Tell me I don't know the way and I tell them cool, alright then. Feels like we've been down this road before, but rest assured I got my ways. Too determined, they can't deter me, not on my journey, get off my case. More mature, less insecure, learning to cure my toxic traits. Whether there's more or less on my plate, I've acquired taste, my time is sacred.
So that's all of my lead vocals DS'd.
New whip, who this, coming through, movements, where
That's better.
to, who with, you pick, the music, new whip.
But what I can hear is there is a weird frequency. It's probably across all the vocals because I know that at the time he was recording with a microphone that he wasn't the happiest with.
New whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with,
It's quite scratchy.
music, new whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to,
So-
who with, you pick, the music, new whip.
And as I boost that, you can hear the reflections in the room, which are obviously building up and adding to the problematic thing that we can hear.
New whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, the music, new whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, the music. Nobody's an island, I'm reminded when I drive through my
I'll
ends.
take that here.
Set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibe.
Cool, that's helping things sound warmer. There is this range here as
You
well.
big, catch me outside, I'm about to pull up in enough cash to fill the tank, so we're about to do some cruising. Aux lead or the Bluetooth.
This sounds like it's higher up.
I put the windows down. Who this, coming through, you pick. Catch me outside, I'm about to pull up in enough cash to fill the tank, so accelerate. New whip, who this, coming through.
Right, I'm happy with that. What I will do is I can hear stuff at the bottom that I don't want, so let's just get rid of that first.
New whip, who this, coming through. Who with, you pick, the music. New whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, the music. Nobody's an...
And I can hear something at the top. I'm just going to filter at 18K. Didn't do what I asked it to do. Let's jump to here.
New whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with.
I like that, but there is some muddiness that I'm hearing in here.
Where to, who with, you pick, the music. New whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, the music. Nobody's an island. New whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, pick, the music. New whip.
There's also something down here. There, but what I want to do with this, I don't want it on I've done static cuts. I want to do this one dynamically, just so it's not a consistent thing.
New whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, the music. New whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, the music. Nobody's an...
That works. Let me drag this over to the lead verse and see what that sounds like.
Nobody's an island, I'm reminded when I drive through my ends.
Happy with that. Let's jump to this section.
You pick, catch me outside, I'm about to pull up in enough cash to fill the tank, so we're about to do some
I know that I need to take this up.
You pick, catch me outside, I'm about to pull up in enough cash to fill the tank, so we're about to do some cruising. Aux lead or the blue.
For now, that works fine. So for now, what I'm going to do is, although I'm processing everything, it seems like I'm processing everything vocally the same. A lot of the core things that I do are the same across all of the lead vocals. The difference and the reason why they're split into 3 different buses, auxes, is because I may not do the same thing with effects, with wet effects. So instead of having to automate certain things, you'll see when I get into the effects section of my mix, but instead of having to automate, I do automate a lot, but instead of having to over automate things, I've just got them split out on different auxes. So it allows me to do different things at different volumes, at different phases in the song. And yeah, you'll see. So I like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a vocal rider. A lot of people use vocal riders in different ways. I typically use vocal rider just to kind of control peaks so my compressors don't, especially my early compressors, so they're not working as hard.
New whip, who this coming through? Movements, where to, who with? You pick the music. New whip, who this coming through? Movements, where to, who with? You pick the music. Nobody's an island, I'm
So that sounds good to me.
New whip, who this coming through? Movements, where to?
Yeah, I like how that sounds. So let's move to the verse.
Music. Nobody's an island, I'm reminded when I drive through my ends. Set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibrance. Tell me I don't know the way and I tell them cool, alright then. Feels like we've been down this road before, but rest assured I got my ways. Too determined, they can't deter me, not on my journey, get off my case.
I like that too. So then instead of taking the second one, because actually no, I will take the second one because this bit has quite a lot of dynamic difference too. So
you pick, catch me outside, I'm about to pull up in enough cash to fill the tank, so we're about to do some cruising. Aux lead or the Bluetooth, we can tune it. Map it out, set a new route, I put the windows down. Who this coming through? You pick, catch me outside, I'm about to pull up in enough cash to fill the tank, so we're about to do some cruising. Aux lead or the Bluetooth, we can tune it. Map it out, set.
So I like how that sounds. Let me jump back to the hook. And what I would like to do is I want to test out colors. So let me go default and let me bring back in, where is it? Let me bring this in, and I want to try shifting the vocal tone and seeing whether I can get more weight without being too bright. Because a lot of the time on this, when you flip to the Neve sound, you get a lot of weight, but the top end gets a little bit pashy. Or I can get more mid-range definition by, I never really use this and I never really use RC, but these first 4, if I'm going to use this plugin, I will use one of those 4.
Off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent. We embrace and...
That's weird. When I go to USA, which is a API console emulation, it brings forward a resonant frequency. It just jumped out to me.
Off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent.
Real ones on my side, listen to that there.
Off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent. We embrace and celebrate all these wins we generate. They try but can't emulate.
So at the moment, to me, it's out of the 4KE, which is a SSL E console emulation, and the Brit N, which is a Neve console emulation.
Off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent. We embrace and celebrate all these wins we generate. They try but can't emulate. Vibes don't lie, they...
And I'm also going to try the Neve preamp plugin.
Working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent. We embrace and celebrate all these wins we generate. They try but can't emulate. Vibes don't lie, they resonate. I move with excellence, smoother entrance, choose direction and that.
I think I prefer that actually. Yeah, I think I prefer that. So I don't need to do too much here. I just want to take that preamp and move it, that preamp emulation and move it over. I like the color that it brings.
Off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my...
I am going to set it to high quality mode, which is basically oversampling, just so my top end doesn't get too crunchy.
Off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent.
Now, after I've done that, I can actually hear that frequency that I was talking about is still there. And because I've heard it, now I can't unhear it. So I'm going to remove that now.
Off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on...
There you go.
I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent.
That's what I could hear, and it was bugging me, so it's going.
Off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the... Off on a tangent, work the equation. I keep real ones on my side.
I want to do it dynamically, so I'll crank it out at 8.
Off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent.
That's cool. If I need to adjust it, I will. And yes, I know I end up using a lot of plugins, but I like to do things in stages so I have full control over what it is that I want in the long run. So I'm happy with that as a rough. Let me bring back in the bass, the sub bass, and the kick drum.
Off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent.
Oh, and the snare.
We embrace and celebrate all these wins we generate. They try but can't emulate. Vibes don't lie, they resonate. I move with excellence, smoother entrance, choose direction and accelerate. New whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick the music. New whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick. Catch me outside, I'm about to pull up in enough cash to fill the tank, so we're about to do some cruising. Aux lead or the Bluetooth, we can tune it. Map it out, set a new route, I put the windows down. Who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick the music.
Now what I want to do with this is I literally just want it to be heavy subs. So I think I may just use lo-fi to remove anything that is harmonic. And again, like I said, I have a duplicate of this. And if I want to add harmonics, I'll do it there, which is what I will do. But right now I just want some low subs. I just want round low subs. If I play from this section here, you can hear the harmonics there. If I do this, very round. So I want to do that for now.
To who with, you pick the music. New whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick. Catch me outside, I'm about to pull up in enough cash to fill the tank, so we're about to do some cruising. Aux lead or the Bluetooth, we can tune it. Map it out, set a new...
Can still hear.
Who with, you pick the music. New whip, who this, coming through, movements, where you pick. Catch me outside, I'm about to pull up in enough cash to...
Just because of the register shift.
Catch me outside, I'm about to pull up in enough cash to fill the tank, so we're about to do some cruising. Aux lead or the Bluetooth, we can tune it. Map it, man in the making, can't complain, I can't.
Similar thing there. So what I'm going to do is just take that EQ, put it there.
Man in the making, can't complain, I can't be complacent. Their estimation must be mistaken. Ups them off on a tangent, working an angle, not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle line and adjacent. We embrace and celebrate all these wins we generate. They try but can't emulate.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. To me right now, that sounds okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'll move on to the next thing that I would do, which is I would introduce 3 things into my mix bus. I typically would have done this earlier on, but I just thought it was fitting to do it later on in the mix so I could explain it better. I use a SSL transform plugin just to create some low end extension, some smoothness in the top end, and a little bit of weight. Then I use Kelvin again to kind of sculpt what's going on. I use a preset that I've kind of tweaked, but not too much. I actually liked how it sounded. It's called Mix Expensive. And to me, all it's doing is adding a little bit of harmonic saturation in a way that is doing some excitement in the upper mids and excitement in the low mids, but not doing too much to the super highs and the super lows. Very subtle, but in the context of when the full mix is going and there's other instruments and EQs are doing what EQs are supposed to be doing, you can actually feel things that I would like to push forward. Instead of going in and taking the faders and potentially messing up my mix, I will push certain things on my mix bus and see whether that works. It doesn't always work, so I don't always use it, but I will always start with it and tweak around and see what happens. And then if I don't like it, I can just bypass it and I'm good to go from there. And then I have my mix bus compressor, which I typically have it on, I don't know why it's like this, but I typically have it on steel. I'm not using opto and I'm getting about 1 dB of compression. When I turn it on, if I've got a basic balance between my kick, bass, and vocals, and I turn this plugin on and the gain reduction is just going crazy, I won't mess with the threshold. I will actually turn my faders down overall. I have a VCA section here where I can just turn this mix fader down and bring things out of the compression, basically just make everything less hot, because I kind of like where this sits. Sometimes I may push the compressor harder, but I try not to back off on it, if that makes sense. Perfect example. So I typically like this to be hitting -1 dB, not -2. So what I'll do is I'll head over here and on my mix, so if I take it all the way down, obviously that's everything out. So I will music, new whip, who this coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, catch me outside, I'm about to pull up in. So that's my kind of starting point. And then what I will do is, although I've done that, what I'll do is I will bypass the compressor, so I just have the sound of steel. New whip, who this coming through, movements, where to. And then I will check, I never use nickel, but I will check whether the song calls for steel or iron. Who this coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick the music. I like steel, majority of the time I go with steel because I like steel. And what I will do, once things start to get hotter, I will then revisit my 1 dB of compression here and with my faders overall here. A lot of the time, like I said, I start this way simply because I don't want to have to change what I've done overall. And I like to have a good reference point when I can look at this compression and be like, okay, my knobs are in a certain place. That's what I'm typically used to. So I'm driving too hard, so I'll dial things back instead of changing my compression settings, and then I can kind of start chasing my tail, and I don't necessarily want to, especially right now I'm explaining a lot of things to you, but typically all of this happens really, really quick as I'm working through the mix. Oh, and there's one more thing that I'll put on my mix bus, which is black box harmonic saturator, basically. I never have it at 100%. This is just a preset that I kind of tweaked and got to from another preset. I just like the lift that I get in the top end without things getting too bright. So at this point now, what I'll do is I will bring in other drum elements. Things aren't great right now. Like, I'm not saying, oh, my vocal mix is exactly where it needs to be. I'm just trying to get a feel for things. So I'll start to bring in other drum elements, and then I'll start to mess with drum processing and bass processing, and, you know, carry it through the mix like that.
Go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibrance. Tell me I don't know the way and I tell them cool, alright then. Feels like we've been down this road before, but rest assured I got my ways. Too determined, they can't deter me, not on my journey, get off my case. More mature, less insecure, learning to cure my toxic traits. Whether there's more or less on my plate, of acquired taste, my time is sacred. Man, I'm a big money man in the making. Can't complain, I can't be complacent, their estimation must be mistaken. Ups them off on a tangent, working at
So
I ain't got the time, got to get a new line if I wanna keep moving. Doing this just ain't quite the same if I ain't got you on side. You let me know it's alright. Messing with you, tell them it's on site. You're the
So the first thing that I want to do here is I feel like I can hear that the kick drum doesn't have the... it is a bit biased, but it doesn't have the weight that the original mix had, and I like that weight, so I know that I want to bring that back. I feel like that's the only thing the only place where I'm going to be referring to the old mix, because the objective is to see if I can get it better, but that was a really good starting point, so I'm going to get that back. It may be different, because I'm not going to listen to the original, but I just know that that's what I felt when I heard the song. I needed weight. It was kind of crunchy. It was pushed forward. I know there was a lot of side chaining that happened. That is more of a stylized decision based on the producer. Paul uses a lot of side chain, so I needed to emulate that for it to stay as close to his production style, because obviously there's no point me doing a mix and it sounds great, but it doesn't sound like the producer anymore. So yeah, we'll get into that as well, to be fair.
When I drive through my ends, set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to go the...
Alright, there's some weird stuff that I don't want. Don't want that. Yep. Let's get... There we go. Let's get some of that going.
On the right angle aligned and adjacent. We embrace and celebrate all these wins we generate. They try but can't emulate. Vibes don't lie, they resonate. I move with excellence, smoother entrance.
Right, with this one, I will tweak the actual threshold. Simply because every song is slightly different, but I do generally go for the same thing. I don't really use a lot of heavy compression on drums. On one single compressor. If I'm going for the heavily compressed sound, I'll do it across multiple stages in multiple different ways, rather than having one compressor slamming. That's not what I want to do. So first things first, what I'm doing with this is I want a little bit more knock from the kick drum, a little bit more transient excitement from the kick drum. So I have a really slow attack, really fast release, 3:1 ratio, and again, I just want to tickle about 1 dB. This is on the VCA side of the compressor, and I am in steel, which basically, steel, iron, and nickel are basically emulations of different transformers on the output stage. I like steel because it is a lot thicker, a lot warmer, and kind of has like a low end saturation, but without being really audible. You feel it more than you hear it. So yeah. But I want 1 dB.
When I drive through my ends, set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibrance. Tell me I don't know the way and
That'll do. And then on the octo side, I just want the needle to move in the slightest. It doesn't have to do a lot.
When I drive through my ends, set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibrance. Tell me I don't know the way and I tell them cool, alright then.
So I found it got moving at here around this point.
Set in motion to put.
But what I don't want to do is lock myself in. Now with the kick, I know my kick isn't gonna go up in volume, but other elements may go up in volume. So I've backed off on the threshold. I found the point where the needle started to move on the uptone side, but then I've backed off on the threshold. So if I do make any volume changes with, for example, like the snare or hi-hats or anything like that, they don't get choked. My kick drum triggers the VCA side, and my other instruments, other drum and percussive instruments will trigger the uptone side. It's a lot slower. So like the drum gets through and then other things get touched a little bit by compression, and that's all I'm aiming for. I use black box again just to excite the top end and just with harmonics. Not even I'm not actually trying to make them brighter, I'm just trying to make them feel brighter by utilizing upper harmonics to kind of push.
When I drive through my ends, set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibrance. Tell me I don't.
For now, that's fine. Oh, by the way, this EQ here, all this is right at the beginning. There is a filtered effect. This was more in line with the music video itself, but there's a filtered effect to make it sound like it was coming through a radio before the song drops. So right in the beginning, you'll get this. And then it bypasses. Yeah, that's all that is. It's on the drums, the bass, the music. It's not on the vocals because there's no vocals playing, but it was just to give that kind of like radio vibe right at the beginning. Let's actually tap into what I do with harmonics on the bass. So on the sub bass, I am using a Shadow Hills compressor, but I'm not using it for any compression. I'm just using the transformer colors. So I'm using iron on this one. There is another black box again, just to add some harmonics. This will become more apparent when I start to actually add harmonics. So this is the low sub one. All of the harmonics are gone. Well, not all, but majority of the harmonics are gone. So then if I take this one, bring it to the exact same level, about 3 dB, and we listen, there's harmonics there. So what I want to do is excite those harmonics a lot. So let's go. Here we go. Bring the level of that down. I like that. But what I don't want is all of the low end, because I don't need it. So if I choose a point, I would say, let's say 150. No, let's say 250. Oops, let's say 250. And let's make sure that this is, let's make sure that this is linear phase or natural phase. Let's blend it in. Actually, hold on. Let me just check the phase relationship. Maybe linear phase is better. There we go. There we go.
Feels like we've been down this road before, but rest assured I got my ways. Too determined, they can't deter me. Not on my journey, get off my case. More mature, less insecure, learning to cure my toxic traits.
And with this, similar thing. Shadow Hills, this one will be on steel. I want more low-end saturation from it, low-end harmonics. But what I do want to do is scoop some weird stuff that's happening. Do that. Let's try and get some of the finger picking. About there. Too much top end. Out there.
Lead or the Bluetooth, we can tune it. Map it out, set a new route. I put the windows down. Who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who with? You pick music, do it.
So far, as you noticed, I haven't done any compression on any of the individual tracks. I've done a little bit on the boss, which is bypassed. I've done a little bit on the drum bus, the bass. No, that's it. I've just done it on the drum bus, actually. Yes. So now I'll start to engage, because I'm starting to sculpt the sounds. I will start to engage other elements of compression, and we'll go from there.
Who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who?
Actually, yes, I will. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, I don't need this, so let me make inactive and move to my inactive folder. What I'm going to do is engage my parallel processing buses for the vocals. I have basically 4 compressors in parallel, 4 different colors, technically 5, because although I don't really like the sound of the CLA 76, if it's in parallel, I do like the character that I get, whether it be the blackie or the bluey. But actually on a directly as an insert, I wouldn't use it. I've got other 1176 emulations for that, so I wouldn't use it. But in parallel, I do like what I get. So let's start there, actually. The way that I've got this set up is I've just got a bus that says rear bus. And if I activate that and turn it up, that feeds 4 different buses itself. So you'll see 4 different elements of parallel compression. They're in stereo simply because sometimes I have lead vocals and it will be, say for example, I'm mixing a hook, and a hook has, the lead hook is a double. Obviously that will then go through a stereo track, but it's still a lead. So I will need left and right, which is why these are in stereo. Yeah, what I'll do is I will just get the compression that I want, and I'm looking for between 7 and 10 dB. I want it smashed. This is on the all buttons in mode. It's got a super slow attack, super fast release. And as long as we're not clipping the plugin, I kind of can gauge things with my eyes, and then I will blend in that fader and see whether I'm getting the character that I want, and I'll flip between blackie and bluey and see what's what.
Who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who with? You pick music. New whip. Who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who with? You pick. Catch me outside. New whip. Who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who with?
Now I've done that by eye, so if we double check what that sounds like, just for the skeptics, we'll see how far off I actually am from, with gain staging, game-wise, from compressed to uncompressed. So let me just solo this, mute this, mute this.
Who this coming through?
What you're hearing now is just the compressed signal, so let's see how far off I am.
Who this coming through? Movements.
That's uncompressed.
Who with? You pick the music. New whip. Who this coming through?
That's
Movements.
Compressed.
Where to? Who with? You pick.
A lot of people say don't trust your eyes for mixing because you mix with your ears, and I agree. But with certain things, if you're just trying to, well, if you know your tools, firstly, and if you are also trying to get something done quickly, you can use your eyes and then figure it out afterwards. because I know what I'm looking for, because I've done this specific thing a million times. I know where my meters are supposed to be here. I know what this is supposed to look like, where things are supposed to be. I just know where things are supposed to be. So yeah, that's why I was able to do it that way. But what I will do now is I'll bring that vocal in.
Who this coming through? Movements, where to, who with, you pick music.
So if I bring it all the way up and play them.
Who this coming through? Movements, where to, who with, you pick music. New whip, who this?
What we hear is on Bluey, there is a lot of saturation that happens. It does squash it, but there's a lot of saturation too. So I'm going to flip to Blackie and see what that sounds like.
Whip, who this coming through? Movements, where to, who with, you pick music. New whip, who this coming through? Movements.
I like Bluey, so I'm going to go with Bluey, but I'm going to find a better balance for it.
New whip, who this coming through? Movements, where to, who with, you pick music. New whip, who this coming through? Movements, where to, who with, you pick. New whip, who this coming through? Movements, where to, who with.
I like that. So what I will decide now is if I'm doing more parallel compression, what compressors are doing what. Because I got my brightness and crunch from that compressor, I now want to get a little bit of warmth from this compressor. It's already set up in a way that I like. So I leave this to taste, but again, I know around about 3 is where I'm gonna be.
Who this coming through? Movements, where to?
And if I feed that in, the vocals will get a lot warmer.
Who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who with, you pick music. New whip, who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who with, you pick.
I'm happy with that. Now, if you notice, I've done all of this before I actually start properly EQing my vocals and compressing my vocals. The reason why I do it this way is because it allows me to do less. I don't overprocess. And it allows me to kind of hear what's happening. I don't want any unpleasant surprises basically down the line. So what I like to do is get my parallel processing in for these lead vocals in early. It starts to shape the tone, and it also accentuates the problems that I have. So as I make it a little bit warmer, I'm also hearing that the vocals are becoming boxy. So now when I start to EQ my vocals properly, I will be EQing with conviction, if that makes sense. I know what I need to remove because it's being accentuated, and once it's gone, I'll then be able to make a better decision on, does this sound like the final vocal, or is this the right direction towards where the final vocal should sit? I have multiple stages where faders are as well, because for example, now I've set this fader of where the hook vocal is.
Who this coming through?
If I want to turn that down, if I turn it down here, it's going to affect what goes into my parallel processing. So what I'll do is I'll move to the end and I'll move to my buses, and on my vocal bus, which is my all leads, I will turn it down there. At the moment, for whatever reason, it's at -4. Oh yeah, it's at -4 because I turned things down already. So if I want to bring it down further,
who this coming through? Movements, where to? Who with?
I can.
Music, new whip.
Or if I want to take it up,
movements, where to? Who with? You pick.
And what I'm going to do is I've taken it up by 1 dB. The reason why is because I want the vocal to push out while I'm making certain decisions. Then I can revisit and find a better balance. So for now, I'm happy with where my parallel compression is. I'm going to double check it on my other lead vocal elements and make sure that I'm happy with it there too, and it's not giving me any surprises.
Nobody's an island, I'm reminded when I drive through my ends. Set in motion to put these roads.
I'm happy with that. It is pushing the same frequency in the low mids that I don't like.
Catch me outside, I'm about to pull up enough cash to fill the tank. So
okay, so what I would then do is I would start to EQ. So we're going to start with the verse, and I'm going to address the frequency that I can hear.
Nobody's an island, I'm reminded when I drive through my ends. Set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibrance. Tell me I don't know the way and I tell them cool, alright then. Feels like we've been down this road before, but rest assured I got my ways. Too determined, they can't deter me, not on my journey, get off my case. More mature, less insecure, learning to cure my toxic traits. Whether there's more or less on my plate, of acquired taste, my time is sacred. Man, I'm a big money man in the making. Can't complain, I can't be complacent. Their estimation must be mistaken. Ups and off on a tangent, working an angle not in the equation. I keep real ones on my side, on the right angle aligned and adjacent. We embrace and celebrate all these wins we generate. They try but can't emulate. Vibes don't lie, they resonate. I move with excellence, smoother entrance. Choose direction and accelerate. New whip, music. Nobody's an island, I'm reminded when I drive through my ends. Set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to...
As it stands, I'm quite happy with that. So let me double check the hook and the like pre-section and see what that sounds like.
Accelerate, new whip, who this, coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, music, new whip.
See, the EQ that I did on the lead vocal, on this on the lead verse vocal, on the lead hook vocal doesn't sound right. So let's address that. Let's address what's happening here.
Accelerate, new whip, who this?
We definitely hear the boxy low, like low mids.
New whip, who this? Coming through.
That definitely needs to go.
Where to? Who with? You pick.
I feel like with this, the low end of it doesn't need to go as much
Accelerate.
because the pace is different. With the verse, he is rapping, so his pace and cadence is a lot quicker. And the low end feels like it's kind of like trailing behind. Whereas with this, he's being a lot more melodic, so I can get away with not taking away too much of the low end in the voice, but finding a space where it still matches up.
Accelerate, new whip, who this? Coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, music, new whip.
There's definitely something scratchy in the upper mids that I don't like.
Accelerate, new whip, who this? Coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, music, new whip.
And I don't think I want to do a boost at 10k. I'm going to try a boost at 16k with this hook.
Accelerate, new whip, who this? Coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, music, new whip. Who this? Coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, catch me outside.
So the pre is kind of in the middle. It's rappy, but it's melodic. So I'm gonna split my hairs, take the rap lead EQ and see where that fits. I know we're in a different register as well. We go quite into his upper register here.
You pick, catch me outside, I'm about to pull up enough cash to fill the tank, so we're...
And I feel like the 16k on this works better.
Catch me outside, I'm about to pull up enough.
The scratch I don't like.
You pick, catch me outside, I'm about to pull up enough cash to fill the...
But it's in a different place.
You pick, catch me outside, I'm about to pull up enough cash to fill the tank, so we're about to do some cruising. Aux lead or the Bluetooth, we can tune it. Map it out, set a new route, I put the windows down. Who this? Coming through, you pick, catch me outside, I'm about...
I like that, but I am a fan of saturation. And I always will be. It's never going to change. It's the way that I mix. It's what's sonically pleasing to me. So I'm going to start tinkering with saturation.
New whip, who this? Coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, music, new whip, who this? Coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, the music, nobody's an island. New whip, who this? Coming through, movements, where to, who with, you pick, music, new whip, music. Nobody's an island, I'm reminded when I drive through my ends. Set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance.
Wrong
Willing to
EQ.
go the extra mile, music. Nobody's an island, I'm reminded when I drive through my ends. Set in motion to put these roads on a map, but I might need guidance. Willing to go the extra mile, I'll enlighten the vibe with vibrance. Tell me I don't know the way and I tell them cool, alright then. Feels like we've been down this road before, but rest assured.
Like that.
You big. Catch me outside, I'm about to pull up enough cash to fill the tank, so we're about to do some cruising. Aux lead or the Bluetooth, we can tune it. Map it out, set a new route, I put the windows down. Who this coming through? You big.
Alright.
You big. Catch me outside, I'm about to pull up enough cash to fill the tank, so we're about to do some cruising. Aux lead or the Bluetooth, we can tune it. Map it out, set a new route, I put the windows down.